Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Anatomy, any furrow or channel on a bodily structure or part. Hollow out in the form of a furrow or groove. A long narrow furrow cut either by a natural process, such as erosion, or by a tool, as e.g. a groove in a phonograph record. A settled and monotonous routine that is hard to escape. Make a groove in, or provide with a groove. Groove a vinyl record. Anatomy, any furrow or channel on a bodily structure or part. A slight depression or fold in the smoothness of a surface. Make wrinkled or creased. Furrow one's brow. Hollow out in the form of a furrow or groove. Furrow soil. Cut a furrow into a columns. A long shallow trench in the ground, especially one made by a plow. Hollow out in the form of a furrow or groove. A settled and monotonous routine that is hard to escape. They fell into a conversational rut. Applies to non-human mammals, a state or period of heightened sexual arousal and activity. A groove or furrow, especially one in soft earth caused by wheels. Be in a state of sexual excitement, of male mammals. Transmit or serve as the medium for transmission. A television station and its programs. A satellite TV channel. A bodily passage or tube lined with epithelial cells and conveying a secretion or other substance. Poison is released through a channel in the snake's fangs. A path over which electrical signals can pass. A channel is typically what you rent from a telephone company. Often plural, a means of communication or access. It must go through official channels. A way of selling a company's product either directly or via distributors. Possible distribution channels or wholesalers or small retailers or retail chains or direct mailers or your own stores. A long narrow furrow cut either by a natural process, such as erosion, or by a tool, as e.g. a groove in a phonograph record. Send from one person or place to another. A deep and relatively narrow body of water, as in a river or a harbor or a strait linking two larger bodies, that allows the best passage for vessels. The ship went aground in the channel. A passage for water, or other fluids, to flow through. The fields were crossed with irrigation channels. Direct the flow of. Channel information towards a broad audience. Any part of an organism such as an organ or extremity. Cause to move around a center so as to show another side of. Turn up, loosen, or remove earth. Turn over the soil for aeration. Move by turning over or rotating. Turn over on your left side. Think about carefully, weigh. Place into the hands or custody of. Turn from an upright or normal position. Cause to overturn from an upright or normal position. Turn upside down, or throw so as to reverse. Turn over the pancakes. Do business worth a certain amount of money. Turn up, loosen, or remove earth. Turn up, loosen, or remove earth. Turn up, loosen, or remove earth. Remove, harvest, or recover by digging. Dig salt. The site of an archaeological exploration. They set up camp next to the dig. An aggressive remark directed at a person like a missile and intended to have a telling effect. She takes a dig at me every chance she gets. The act of touching someone suddenly with your finger or elbow. She gave me a sharp dig in the ribs. Remove the inner part or the core of. The act of digging. Create by digging. Dig a hole. Get the meaning of something. Poke or thrust abruptly. Work hard. She was digging away at her math homework. A small gouge, as in the cover of a book. The book was in good condition except for a dig in the back cover. Thrust down or into. Dig the oars into the water. A state of depression and anhedonia so severe as to require clinical intervention. A period during the 1930s when there was a worldwide economic depression and mass unemployment. An air mass of lower pressure often brings precipitation. A concavity in a surface produced by pressing. A long-term economic state characterized by unemployment and low prices and low levels of trade and investment. A sunken or depressed geological formation. A mental state characterized by a pessimistic sense of inadequacy and a despondent lack of activity. Angular distance below the horizon, especially of a celestial object. Pushing down. Depression of the spacebar on the typewriter. Sad feelings of gloom and inadequacy. A concavity in a surface produced by pressing. He left the impression of his fingers in the soft mud. A symbol that is the result of printing or engraving. An outward appearance. He made a good impression. A clear and telling mental image. The events left a permanent impression in his mind. All the copies of a work printed at one time. A vague idea in which some confidence is placed. His impression of her was favorable. An impressionistic portrayal of a person. He did a funny impression of a politician. Dentistry, an imprint of the teeth and gums in wax or plaster. The dentist took an impression for use in preparing an inlay. The act of pressing one thing on or into the surface of another. He watched the impression of the seal on the hot wax. Mark or stamp with or as if with pressure. Establish or impress firmly in the mind. We imprint our ideas onto our children. An impression produced by pressure or printing. A concavity in a surface produced by pressing. A device produced by pressure on a surface. A distinctive influence. English stills bears the imprint of the Norman invasion. An identification of a publisher. A publisher's name along with the date and address and edition that is printed at the bottom of the title page. The book was published under a distinguished imprint. An unvarying or habitual method or procedure. A short performance that is part of a longer program. She had a catchy little routine. A set sequence of steps, part of larger computer program. An unvarying or habitual method or procedure. Found in the ordinary course of events. It was a routine day. Make an incision into by carving or cutting. A long narrow opening. A long narrow depression in a surface. Anatomy. A long narrow slit or groove that divides an organ into lobes. Break into fissures or fine cracks. Groove between the ribs where the nerves and blood vessels are. Panel forming the lower part of an interior wall when it is finished differently from the rest of the wall. A rectangular groove cut into a board so that another piece can fit into it. Cut a dado into or fit into a dado. Provide with a dado. The owners wanted to dado their dining room. The section of a pedestal between the base and the surbase. A stripe or stripes of contrasting color. Any of a number of tiny parallel grooves such as the scratches left by a glacier on rocks or the streaks or ridges in muscle tissue. A groove or furrow in cloth, etc., particularly a shallow concave groove on the shaft of a column. A high-pitched woodwind instrument. A slender tube closed at one end with finger holes on one end and an opening near the closed end across which the breath is blown. A tall, narrow wineglass. Form flutes in. A groove or furrow in cloth, etc., particularly a shallow concave groove on the shaft of a column. The erosive process of washing away soil or gravel by water, as from a roadway. From the house they watched the washout of their newly seeded lawn by the water. Someone who is unsuccessful. The channel or break produced by erosion of relatively soft soil by water. It was several days after the storm before they could repair the washout and open the road. A stripe or stripes of contrasting color. Any of a number of tiny parallel grooves such as the scratches left by a glacier on rocks or the streaks or ridges in muscle tissue. A strange attitude or habit. A narrow groove beside a beading. Twist or curve abruptly. She quirked her head in a peculiar way. A refund of some fraction of the amount paid. A rectangular groove made to hold two pieces together. Cut a rebate in timber or stone. Give a reduction in the price during a sale. Join with a rebate. Rebate the pieces of timber and stone. A rectangular groove made to hold two pieces together. Cut a rectangular groove into. Join with a rabbet joint. Any road or path affording passage, especially a rough one. Computer science. One of the circular magnetic paths on a magnetic disk that serve as a guide for writing and reading data. Travel across or pass over. Go after with the intent to catch. The act of participating in an athletic competition involving running on a track. An endless metal belt on which tracked vehicles move over the ground. A course over which races are run. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. A distinct selection of music from a recording or a compact disc. The title track of the album. A line or route along which something travels or moves. The track of an animal. A bar or pair of parallel bars of rolled steel making the railway along which railroad cars or other vehicles can roll. A groove on a phonograph recording. A pair of parallel rails providing a runway for wheels. Carry on the feet and deposit. Track mud into the house. Make tracks upon. Observe or plot the moving path of something. Track a missile. Machinery that processes materials by grinding or crushing. English philosopher and economist remembered for his interpretations of empiricism and utilitarianism, 1806 to 1873. A plant consisting of one or more buildings with facilities for manufacturing. Move about in a confused manner. The act of grinding to a powder or dust. Scottish philosopher who expounded Bentham's utilitarianism. Father of John Stuart Mill, 1773 to 1836. Grind with a mill. Mill grain. Produce a ridge around the edge of. Mill a coin. Roll out, metal, with a rolling machine. The branch of morphology that deals with the structure of animals. Alternative names for the body of a human being. A detailed analysis. He studied the anatomy of crimes. The branch of morphology that deals with the structure of animals.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.